Perfect. All right, welcome. Moving on, we will now go to Resolution 05-2024-06, Coming Home Out of Province Citizenship. Allowing out-of-province Métis to receive Métis Nation Saskatchewan citizenship coming home. Moved by President Glenn McCallum, seconded by Vice President Michelle Leclerc. Whereas the Constitution of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan Constitution includes a definition of citizenship that does not include a Saskatchewan residency requirement, whereas the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly, MNLA, amended the Citizenship Act in 2021 to provide for a process of registering eligible persons as Métis citizens based on the definition of Métis contained in the Constitution, whereas at community consultations in 2019, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, citizens supported removing any provincial residency requirements for Métis Nation Saskatchewan MNS citizenship, whereas MNS recognizes through community consultations the importance of holding citizenship to out-of-province individuals, whereas MNS reaffirms its commitment to the preservation and celebration of Métis culture, heritage, and rights, while fostering greater solidarity and cooperation among Métis people residing both within and outside of Saskatchewan, ensuring that all Métis people can come home regardless of where they live. Therefore, be it resolved that Métis Nation Legislative Assembly, MNLA, directs the clerk of the MNLA to ensure the Constitution of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan Constitution and the Citizenship Act are complied with so that all applications for citizenship from Métis who meet the definition of citizenship in the Constitution wherever they live are approved and can come home. President Glenn McCallum, do you so move?
Yes, I do.
Vice President Michelle Leclerc, do you still second the motion?
I do.
We would now put up our speakers list for any questions. Do we have any questions? Oh, okay. I think it starts with Dexter.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. 1 second, everyone. Keep your hands up. I'll see. Jocelyn Ormerod. I couldn't. Viola Bell. I thought Autumn had her. Autumn Lang LaRose. Shirley Eisbister. Sorry, there's one light that's positioned sort of oddly and I'm going blind. Oh, thanks. Wow. Okay, that's way better. I think that's, why don't we start with Dexter Mondor?
Just curious when this happens, or if it does happen, when it comes to program funding, which, more citizens is better, which region, local, do they get lumped into? That way program funding is allocated properly. Just curious.
Richard Quintel, clerk.
So, that's a really good point, Dexter. As we move forward, we had a discussion about this. I believe it was yesterday. It could have been earlier today. It's kind of some of those, the lines get blurred. But yes, the more citizens we have at some point, that will dictate our funding. At this current time, it is my understanding that the council was doing this and putting this forward as, legally, there was a misinterpretation of our own laws when it came to registration, because they were looking at at one of our acts that says that you need residency to belong to a local, but in terms of citizenship, that's not the case. It will lead to a point where it could increase our funding, and as we move towards, we currently are using different formulas, and that funding will come to the nation. We'll have to figure out basically where they're coming from. So essentially, where their roots link them back into Saskatchewan, then it will come from it'll go to that area. So that's still left to be looked at. So that's a really good point. At this point in time, it's opening it up so that those citizens that reside outside of our Saskatchewan jurisdiction can have the pride and be able to be connected back to home.
Jocelyn Ormerod.
Thank you, Mrs. Speaker. So I really do want to caution the MNLA and I guess citizens too as we move forward, because I did a little bit of digging to figure out how in the heck we don't have being a Saskatchewan resident in the Constitution or in the Citizenship Act. And it looks like at the February 2021 MNLA, there was a resolution passed to amend the Citizenship Act, which is in the resolution. But within that amendment, it had in the explanation that we would be amending the Constitution to include Saskatchewan citizenship or Saskatchewan residents as part of our citizenship definition. And the Constitution never did get amended to include that. And so I worry that as we move forward to constitutional reform and we're pulling stuff out of the Constitution, putting into acts, that we're going to find ourselves in this situation time and time again. And then my other kind of point on this is that we need to register our own people before we start looking at opening it up to outside of province. We have 80,000 Métis people in the province of Saskatchewan, and we only have 30,000 registered. We're not quite at the place where I think we can start opening up our bounds until we get our own people registered. But again, just pointing out that discrepancy that happened, that doesn't instill faith in the current constitutional reform process, because these are things that we're worried about. So I would speak against this motion.
Clerk Richard Quintel, and then VP Leclerc.
Excuse me. I just wanted to highlight that this is in fact about, you mentioned, Jocelyn, about taking care of our own first, and this is exactly what this resolution is meant to do, is to take care of our own for those that are not currently here as a government. For example, looking at any other state, if you would be, for example, the federal government, you've got a passport, you belong to Canada, you live outside that jurisdiction, you still have connection home, you've got rights at home, and all those types of things. It's the same concept. Individuals living outside of this jurisdiction, being able to carry the card, does that take away from any of you, any of the locals, the funding? It does not. As we currently stand, they will not, like, if the worry is, does this take money away from all of you as we move forward? It would not. This would increase funding potentially as we move forward through self-government, because higher numbers, higher funding, but it's actually not about that. It's about identity. It's about connecting, and so many people have been reaching out, living in other jurisdictions, and just want to be able to have that pride of connecting back to the Métis Nation, Saskatchewan. So it's about taking care of our own. It's absolutely about that.
Vice President Leclerc.
Yeah, thank you, Jocelyn. I think just for a bit of clarification, one of the things that we have heard from our communities through constitutional reform is so many of our young people have moved out of the province. So many relatives, children who are living, adult children who are living in other provinces, this is their connectedness. They're connected to this land. They are our people. And so that's what we've heard time and time again, and a lot of people who have reached out. I think about my dad, who is now back here in Saskatchewan, but living in New Brunswick for a number of years. He didn't have a community there. This is his community. And so in order for him to have that connectedness or to be able to say, I am Métis for Saskatchewan, I think it's fair. They are our people. And so we're still doing the work that we need to do with the registry here in Saskatchewan with people that are living within the province, but we'll do other work as well if people choose to. I think about my sister. She, for example, lives in Ontario. She doesn't want to have a Métis Nation Ontario card. Her connectedness is to Saskatchewan. She wants to be validated by our own people. This is her land, and she is our people.
President McCallum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kapmuktia ko mga meetings kay tuhtiyan Ontario, Manitoba, Alberta, British Columbia kay tuhtiya. Michati sin wag nakskawananak. Michati niktapah ko tan sige na wiswi pinigiya ko ta Saskatchewan, our government. And you've always heard me say this. Kaya michat yuche nstawna ko Akpuchik tapatah ko tan si takah kui pinigia registry uche. You know, when we travel the country, my wife and I and our executive and some of our council members, we always meet up with people from Ontario, Manitoba, Alberta, and British Columbia. And they would come up to shake our hands and say, I'm from Saskatchewan. When can I come home? When can I have my citizenship card? Again, to belong somewhere, to be able to be proud of who you are. In the past 7 years, we've never, and before the 7 years, we've never passed 3,000 in our registry. Because of what this government has done, your government, and all the conversations and negotiations, agreements that we've signed, our people are seeing the results of how we're building a strong government. And they want to come back home. So it's a great title, Coming Home. Yes, we can be selfish in regards to what we have, a little bit of what we have, but we're talking about treaty now in regards to opening the door, and to be able to negotiate what is rightfully ours, and to be able to deliver the programs that our people need. But at the end of the day, there's people that have left this province that want to come home, and the Vice President said even his dad, the relatives that are out there, want to come home. And let's be open to that, have an open mind. Let's not pray just because we want to pray, but pray for the interest of our people, the best interest of our people. The ones that want to come home deserve to be home. Thank you.
Thank you. There we go. Viola Bell.
Thank you. I am going to concur with President Jocelyn. Furthermore, when you talk about that, like, we're not there yet. We haven't changed our constitution. So by passing this motion, we will be in contravention of our existing constitution. So my suggestion is to put this aside, and once our constitution gets changed or whichever, that we have to follow format here. And by going ahead with this motion and being in contravention, looks like poor governance strategy to start with. And also, to me, this is duplicating the Red River Métis. They opened the boundaries. They came and registered a lot of our Métis people here in Saskatchewan. They were at Batoche. And I recall that day that they were there because I worked at the gates. And they worked on me too, and I said, you know, according to my constitution, I'm a Métis here in Saskatchewan, and my constitution says I can only belong to one organization. So I continued to be firm and stayed with it, even though I am originally from Manitoba, and I was a Métis registered there back in the day before '94, and I came here. Also, the other thing, so in good governance, and speaking of good governance, when I read this resolution, and no disrespect to President McCallum, but President McCallum is the chair of the PMC, and a chair cannot make a motion. And in good governance, we dealt with this before. I do a lot of governance training and online. I'm really tacky about it. And Minister Gervais, you also recall when you were coming to a board that we sat on that we had a legal opinion. The chair, if you're going to be the chair and you're going to step aside and let the vice chair, who is the only person that can chair besides the chair.
That is time, so I will ask you to wrap up.
Okay, my point is that you can sit there as an observer and not vote. Thank you.
I will turn it over to Secretary McCallum.
Thank you. In regards to the motion, right now, we would not be in conflict with the Constitution because membership of a local is different than a citizenship. And in our Constitution, it doesn't state that we can't allow our citizens from back home, from being in Saskatchewan to be part of our citizenship, okay? But, and say if we refuse them, say if we refuse Jules, my girlfriend, she's in Toronto, She wanted to, she said, well, you know, it's a process to be part of MNO. I don't want to be part of MNO. And so she says, well, can I apply here? And I didn't have an answer for her because was there a process in our citizenship registry office? We weren't very clear about it. But today, when we dug into the legislation and our Constitution, so in the Constitution right now, if we were to refuse Jewel, I call her Jules, if we refuse Jules to apply for citizenship, we would be in conflict with our Constitution. In our Citizenship Act, we are allowed to let them in as well. And I think that that's important to know. And one of the other discussions that we've had, and we continue to have, and you know, I think of Vice President Leclerc, she don't belong to a local, but when you ask her where is her roots, she says L'Orange. And one of the things that our citizens have talked to us when we did consultation is, can we go back to our homeland and hold our be identified within our community? So for myself as an example, instead of belonging to local 11, could I go back home and be a member or a citizen registered with local 62, which is Buffalo Narrows? And right now, that doesn't give us the ability to do so because of the local under Section 7 of the Constitution, where it refers to the local membership, right? We're talking about citizenship. Citizenship and membership are two different things within our Constitution. And I've said that numerous times, and I continue to say that even through the consultation. We need to, our job, and we're, you know, as I get into my presentation next on the agenda, we need to clean up that act under citizenship, and we need to divide those two things from membership to citizenship. What is membership and what is citizenship? We're very clear on citizenship, but we're not clear on this membership because we're saying the citizenship, why aren't they included in this local, right? So it's unclear. We're working on that. But in regards to a citizen coming back home, they are eligible within our Constitution today. And there's no amendments to our Constitution that would be required to do so. And we can implement it through our Citizenship Act.
Thank
Thanks.
you. And I did want to let you finish your point there, just so that we understood those different pieces. Clerk Clintel?
Just kind of wrap that one up. Listening to the Assembly, the focus is on following the Constitution, and that's why this motion was brought forward, is we are currently not following the Constitution, as the Constitution has the right to citizenship, and if we are not allowing our citizens who link back to Saskatchewan to become home, we're in contravention of the Constitution. So this is brought forward to do exactly that, to align our government with our Constitution, because we are currently in contravention by not allowing citizens to the right to citizenship. And if we need to, we have our legal team here who can discuss if the Assembly so chooses.
Thank you. Shirley Isbister.
Good morning, everyone. I believe that our citizens should be able to apply back and to become Métis Nation Saskatchewan citizens. But I do have some probably logistical concerns, like how will we maintain that? Like the education funding, health, the children's programs, voting. Will Métis people be able to have dual Métis citizenships? Because I also have family, like my nephews and that, in BC, and they hold BC, and I've actually, their son wanted to transfer to Saskatchewan, and I didn't think it was possible. But then once they're there, they should be eligible, like how for the children's programming, if they need speech therapy. Would we be paying that while they live in another province? I think we have to think some of that through it, how we would maintain that. Thank you.
Clerk Clintel?
So All the other governing members, except for one, have opened up their registries to be able to have citizens belong. And we're currently having discussions around what would operating agreements look like. For example, being able to serve other Métis citizens from other jurisdictions. Those discussions are happening. Currently, based on where we're at, you wouldn't be able to access some funding from outside of our jurisdiction. You'd be able to hold the citizenship, so it's more like the connection, belonging home. Would we be sending our dollars outside of the province? We would not be sending our dollars outside the province unless through our treaty negotiations, we are able to negotiate dollars to support across. But currently as it stands, the commitment is we're not taking any money away from this assembly, from our people. It's about people that want to connect home. And we are currently negotiating through the treaty process about how we're able to do that and support our citizens who are outside, but our current funding parameters do not allow. And so it's about people who just want to connect home and be able to carry citizenship and feel that connection back to Saskatchewan.
But if there's a citizen, they should have the same rights as you or I.
Sorry,
Sorry.
it is, I'll allow it, but we really do have to respect the speakers list, otherwise we can't get through everyone. Clerk Clintel?
So I used an example as if you're a Canadian citizen living abroad, when you're in those jurisdictions, you can't access certain funding in other jurisdictions, but when you come home, you do. And there are certain things, for example, that might carry, but just to be clear, where we currently are, it does not have any funding leaving. Unless we negotiate something different with the federal government to be able to do that, you would need to be here in Saskatchewan to access programs and services, unless that changes through negotiations. But currently, that's where we are. So it would be just having that connection home, but would not be able to connect and have other funding. And we're negotiating agreements, or those discussions are happening with other Métis governments in terms of what does a future state look like, how do we take care of each other, how do we work with each other. But based on our current funding parameters, our funding remains here in Saskatchewan.
Thank you. Autumn Lang LaRose.
Thank you, Chair. In my first week of getting elected, I actually had a youth reach out to me because they had learned essentially about what the Youth Council was through the election, and they were so excited. They were living in Montreal for school, and they said, I just graduated and I got a job here. And I had to explain to them how our current registry system works, and they were heartbroken, but that was my home. I'm born and raised there. There's nothing here for me. Where am I supposed to go? And I said, I'm really sorry, I don't know. We'll try and include you in whatever ways we can virtually, but other than that, you can apply to the MMF, is what I had to tell that youth from Saskatchewan. And I understand that there's concerns around funding and support, and I think that absolutely makes sense given the capacity that the locals are all working in. But to me, this isn't about money. This is, at all. This is about who we are as a people, and we're exercising our Indigenous right and as an Indigenous government to determine who we are as a people, and saying to Canada and to everyone else watching, it doesn't matter about your colonial borders at all, because we know who we are and we determine who our citizens are. And so I just really want to emphasize the importance of us taking this step to say that no, Canada, no province of Saskatchewan, we know who we are. These are our citizens of our Indigenous government. They are from our home communities. They are our family. And I think that this is really important. I do echo those logistical concerns, but logistics can always be worked out. This is so much bigger than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Leclerc?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, President Lang LaRose, as always, wise words. And this is another thing that that our citizens, or potential citizens who have moved from Saskatchewan, as we see this big movement with respect to ensuring that we don't have pretendians in government in different places. If you've got this young person in Montreal who is purporting to be Métis, a lot of institutions now are saying, as they should be, do you have identification that is connected to a nation? And if we've got someone from Saskatchewan who is a potential citizen, who their parents, their family, so on and so forth, and we can't give them that identification card, that really stops them from being able to say, I'm Métis from Saskatchewan. And I mean, President McCallum's always talking about the agreement that he signed with the University of Saskatchewan. One of the reasons for that was because of a very well-known case where there was, someone purporting to be from our nation. So I just want to, I think that's an added sort of argument, and thank you very much, President Lang-LaRose, for that.
Thank you. Sherry McClellan.
Thank you, Speaker. I just have a concern also. I have family that live in other provinces as well, and they're connected right to Batoche. But I want to question, are these people going to be able to vote in our election? How are we going to do that? And also about voting in a local. If they're coming back home and they belong in a local, can they vote in the local election also? Thank you.
Clerk Quintel.
So there is that clause about to belong to a local, you need to be a resident. So to answer that question is no, they would not be able to vote in a local election. Would they be able to vote in the provincial election? That's a question mark, and that would have to come back to the Assembly. And if that were to change, I'm assuming we would have to look at the legal part of this, but we would have to amend the Elections Act to be able to address that. I could be wrong, but currently as it stands,
It's in the act.
they would be able to?
No,
There's a residency clause in the
Election
act, in the Elections Act, so they would not be able to vote currently. That would have to be changed, but all of that would have to come through this Assembly, and the act would have to be changed. So the answer would be no, they would not be able to vote as it currently stands.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind the people in our audience, there are some super animated conversations going on. That's fantastic, but some people can't hear. So if you're having a really animated conversation, maybe just head next door and grab some coffee and stuff while you do that. All right, Louis Gardner.
Yeah, thank you. Louis Gardner, Isle Lacrosse, Métis Local. I also have, to me, I think we must serve all our Métis citizens who are members. And I know in the 80s and 90s, we had a lot of our Métis citizens leave our province from Isle Lacrosse, historic Métis community. And even to the point of them even moving to in the cities in Saskatchewan. But we strongly believe that your point of origin is very important, and that a lot of our members have called me, saying, how can we come back home and become Métis citizens in Saskatchewan again and belong to our Métis local because of our history, and which is tied to our, a lot of our hunting and cases and that. So I think they're very important. I think we do that. The registry itself, forms, tells you like within 6 months, if you move to a province, you have to give up your card next day. And so, those points, I think, because my auntie who left Isle Lacrosse years ago and actually got a card at Alberta, and now she's coming home and says, can I transfer? I want to become a Métis citizen in Saskatchewan, in Isle Lacrosse. And I'm telling them and saying, so I'm sure, because we never did release her, so did she ever actually legally become a member of the MNLA? And I don't know if the acceptance, I guess getting a card, you get accepted, I guess. So with that, I think it's just, if we're going to serve our Métis citizens, and I think a lot of them want to come home, they want to serve, and they want our provincial Saskatchewan Métis card, but yet still want to live in other provinces. I think we have to find ways in the new modern-day treaty that we're going to discuss of how, we need to serve all our citizens. Because if I'm
And that's
looking,
time, sorry.
yeah, if I'm looking at a model, is this like we're serving on reserve or off reserve? We need to serve all our Métis citizens, so thank you.
Thank you. Derek Langen.
So, all my questions have already been answered from previous speakers. I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Wendy Gervais.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The majority of my questions and concerns have been answered. However, something has come to me. There was a comment or something that had been spoken to regarding dual citizenship. So how do we address that? I'm living in Alberta and I belong to MNS. Am I entitled to have an MNA card for services? And so this would be really the question. Am I entitled to hold a card from the province that I reside in to access services, to participate in the democratic process, but because my homeland is Métis Nation Saskatchewan, I'm allowed to have a card there as well?
Clerk Quintel.
So currently, there's no way to be able to verify whether or not, unless, there's no way to verify whether or not an individual currently has a card with another governing member. I mentioned that we're talking about operating agreements, how do we work with each other in terms of other Métis governments, and so that is one of the things that is being looked at, is how do we address that? And frankly, it will only come into play when we start talking money. So when it comes to the time that, and I'm just kind of throwing this out there, let's say, for example, we're treaty, I'm going to use Manitoba Métis Federation, let's say their treaty, we have a citizen in one of our jurisdictions reaches out, they want supports here, they want support there. Maybe it's a dialogue, but it's for the citizen as an individual, to be able to choose like where they belong and where their heart belongs. So there's lots to be discussed on this, but it would be, I'm assuming, up to the citizen, but right now there's no way to check, and there's nothing that's prompting for it to come up to be a conflict. Within our governing documents, it says that you can't belong to another, to another Indigenous government. However, as it currently stands, we can check to see if someone is treaty, because we have that secure link with the Indian Registrar, and those are the types of agreements that we're talking about with other governing members to assure that our citizens don't hold another card, but there's no way to verify that unless we had access to other systems, which we don't because we're all independent. So that's a complicated one, but what we're looking at in terms of these operating agreements between governments.
Thank you. Marlene Hansen.
Thank you, Marlene Hansen, Local 62. It was mentioned, doesn't matter where your family is, we're family. And I'm a strong believer also in family, and regardless if my family lived in Mexico, they'd still be my family. However, I do have a concern in regards to our processes. We continue to, it looks like, I like the discussion because I think this is really good discussion, and in order for us to move and be open, this has to take place. And like Louis mentioned, we are talking treaty, and that's probably a good place to talk about that concern, to bring that forward there. However, with our Constitution and our processes that we have, and I think sometimes we overlook our processes and just jump at something without really taking or putting thought into it just because an idea came forward. And I caution us here today to be able to really look at that. I go back to a comment that our youth made in regards to the budget about this coming home. I'm confused when it talks about coming home, and Richard mentioned accuracy today. Like, if we're going to be accurate, our wording needs to be accurate, because coming home, are they going to stay over there, or are they coming home here? It's confusing. I speak against it. Thank you.
Vice President Leclerc?
Thanks, Marlene. I also want to just remind people about the 60 scoop and people that were scooped from this province, from our families, who are living in different places and not a choice of their own that they've made. And we've heard a number of people that have been scooped that live in the United States, that live in the United Kingdom, that live across this country, and we're telling them that they can't come home. It was not their choice to be scooped. And we've had a number of people saying, we want to come home. We were stolen from Saskatchewan. We were stolen from our culture and from our community. So I just want to add that to there.
Thank you. I think we are on page 2. I just wanted to, okay, perfect. No, I thought I saw Kelvin Roy.
Thank you, Calvin Roy here. Like looking at that 60 scoop, what happened in the past, and citizens stolen, children stolen. Again, I still strongly believe that it should be a point of origin where you belong. Not where you live, not where you go. It should be where you belong, and your point of origin should be that factor. Your birth certificate does not lie where you're from. That's where you belong, and that's where you should be registered. Now, there's little complications with that because some of our Métis communities don't have hospitals, so they're born in, like I was born in Meadow Lake, but I'm from Green Lake, so there have to be something there to protect that. But again, point of origin should be play a big role in our citizenship. Doesn't matter, because another thing too is a lot of our people in our community in Green Lake have left, and not because of their choosing, because of their need to provide for their family in terms of getting a job. Our unemployment rate in Green Lake is like 95%. They have to leave to go to work. It's not a fault of their own. It's just a system the way it was that forced them to move, to gain employment, to provide for their family, and we shouldn't be holding that against them. We need to provide a way for them to be part of the point of origin of where they're from. And I'm hoping that through this treaty that we can accomplish that, and it'll take care of a lot of things in terms of who lives where and what. If my membership lives in BC, for instance, which I have a lot, want to be a member of their home community, I say, yes, you're a member. Regardless of what anybody says, you're still a member.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you very much. Denny Brooks.
Thank you. Denny Brooks, Redona Real Métis Council. I think my question has been answered, but I'll just ask for a clarification. So it sounds like those living out of province will not have access to programs or services or funding. And if that's the case, then I'm not sure what this accomplishes. I understand the being connected part. I totally get that. I'm just not, I'm not certain what this does. If the intent of this is to increase our numbers so that MNS gets more funding, and then these people are not, funding is not available to them, then they're not fully a citizen.
Clerk Cantel.
Thank you, Speaker. So this, when we were reviewing the Constitution where, we need to make sure there's alignment, where this one really came from was, you're all aware of C-53. We were able to go and bear witness to an extremely racist process, and I think that's what it is when it went to INAN committee. and the dialogue, what happened on social media, what's going on across the country in terms of these discussions. And it's really about pride, it's about connecting, it's like the same things that President Roy was talking about belonging, coming, connecting back to where you're from. We're forcing people, all of you around this table, every single one of you are so proud to carry that card in your wallet. And I can guarantee you, people out there are being forced to join illegitimate governments, illegitimate entities that purport to represent other peoples, because there's no other options, whether they're in Quebec, whether they're in Nunavut, whether they're in Tokyo, they should be able to connect home. And it's about pride. It's actually was never about funding. It's actually about people being able to connect back to where they're from, where they belong, and where their heart is.
Thank you.
Thank you. We just have to take one quick pause for 2 minutes. Just we have to ask a clarification. We're running quite a bit late. I think we're all aware of that. So just give us one quick second to figure this part out. We'll get right back to the speakers list. Well, actually, while we're figuring it out, I'm just going to go to Kathy Pruden-Nensel, and we'll figure out our other stuff.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to choose to speak as Minister of Child and Family Services on this today. Michelle had talked about the 60s scoop, and I had showed my colleague on the side to me because I had it written really big. So one of the issues right now with Child and Family Services is our ministry and staff have been working really hard to identify how many Métis kids are in care right now. We don't know because they're not registered. And that just includes the services that the provincial government in Saskatchewan is providing for. Our kids have been adopted all over the place. So we don't know where they are. We don't know how to connect and be there as a grounding, as the belly button, the cord part, right? Where we all come home. Through the 60s scoop again, there was adoptions all over the place. We have Métis people that live all over the world. I have relatives that live in Greenland, for crying out loud, and the US too. We also have children who are in the Sick Kids Toronto Hospital and will probably live out their days there, but they're not registered to us. So they don't technically belong to us. And as a Métis community, we don't not grieve everyone's children. It impacts all of us. That kinship relationship is severed and it's broken. The other thing is, script took us all over the place. People received their money for their script. Well, they had to go somewhere. And it wasn't always to Saskatchewan. It wasn't always to Manitoba. It was wherever they could find safe refuge, and often it was road allowance. So, I mean, that's an issue. Richard hit a button for me when he was talking about services. I lived in the Northwest Territories for a number of years, and we have transfer agreements. And again, I'm talking as a minister.
Sorry, that's time. I'm just going to have to ask you to finish
I will
that
round
thought.
it up. But there's ways that can be negotiated on behalf of people who belong to our families. Thanks.
Thank you, Minister. We're going to hold the speakers list right here. We just have to complete the signing with Saskatchewan Polytech and USask Research Institute. So we're just going to do that signing, and then we're going to come right back to the speakers list. Oh, we're going to come back to lunch and then the speakers list because everyone's hungry. So let's just go down. If you're part of the signing, please go down and be...
Let's give him a round of applause of the good job she's done. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, I hope you all enjoyed lunch. So thank you to the staff that provided that lunch for us. All right, we're going to pull that speakers list back up. We're going to go back to 10:30. And we are going to start with Kim Fisher. So just, I should remind everyone, these are questions on the resolution coming home, just in case. So that is resolution number 05-2024-06. Kim Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Kim Fisher here, Local 55 President. So I'm just curious to know about, like, someone that's living in Alberta right now, say, and was born in Sask, like, they're still able to hold both cards?
Our clerk is just coming right now. Clerk Quintel.
Yeah.
No, they shouldn't be able to. One of the complications is how we are able to confirm whether or not they've got that other card. Hopefully people are, you know, if they want to be part of the Métis Nation, they give that card up. But as the clerk mentioned earlier this morning, talking about having some agreements with other governments like Alberta to ensure that that person only holds one card.
Okay, so if they're living in Alberta but got their historical presence here in Saskatchewan, or from a local and they moved out there, and they have to get that Alberta card within the 6 months, but want to keep this one here in Saskatchewan because this is where their roots are, how does that work? Because they need to get those fundings for their kids or supports in Alberta, but yet still want to hold that card here because this is where they're from. I don't get it.
Yeah, Clerk Quintel.
Thank you, Speaker. So that goes to the part that we were talking about earlier, Kim, in terms of looking at what does operating agreements look like, how do we go about that? Because currently, there's not a way for us to be able to know who has cards in different jurisdictions. I met a young man the other day who actually has lived in all of the provinces and actually carries a MNO, MMF, MNS, MNA, and MNBC card. Real Métis, this guy. But anyways, so kind of when it comes to those operating agreements, how do we go about doing that? And it's once that funding comes to be able to operate. But we're hearing a lot of good things, and I think this is a really good discussion. There's really that big pride piece, but there's the practicality as well as what does that mean. In other jurisdictions, I think it was President Lang-LaRose that brought it up. A lot of people we're hearing in jurisdictions where there's not a Métis government are finding themselves, like, for example, one individual, I won't say what jurisdiction it is, but there's a healthcare, you know, everyone knows how hard it is to access healthcare, and there's an Indigenous health clinic. You need to have citizenship to be able to belong, and where they currently live, they don't have access to that. And so what do they do? Where do they go and they can't access healthcare because of it? So it limits individuals in terms of accessing programs and initiatives that are out there in terms of in institutions, primarily education, health. There's a lot of benefits to being able to, or if you're perhaps maybe you're an entrepreneur or a business owner outside of this jurisdiction, and then there is national places where you can access funding, and at least we know these individuals are Métis citizens accessing those dollars and don't belong to any other Indigenous organization out there that aren't, the Métis. And so it's not clear, Kim, in terms of that, but that's what we're working on. Like Minister Pruden Nansel mentioned, there's other models out there in terms of operating agreements, and that's what we'd be seeking. I hope that clarifies a bit.
Yes, thank you, Clerk.
Thank you. Mervyn Tex Bouvier.
Good afternoon. Mervyn Tex Bouvier, Northern Region 3 Regional Director. It's just a question regarding a person that doesn't have a Métis card, but resides in Ottawa, wants a Métis card, phones me every once in a while, when can I get my Métis card? Is a survivor of the residential school of Alacross, and is a member of Alacross, was born in Alacross, and a citizen of Saskatchewan. So, but he resides in Ottawa. They moved there because of family purposes, I guess. Once I got married to someone from Ottawa, so he moved to Ottawa. And just wondering if he can get his Métis card, because He was in a residential school in La Crosse. Just a question, I guess, that he wants to know.
Clerk Quintel?
If this were to pass today, Minister Bouvier, they would be able to come home.
Okay, I support it.
Thank you. Loretta King.
Good afternoon, Loretta King, Western Region 1. So I have a few comments. First, I know that Member Brooks had asked, what would this card do? This card would support individuals who are trying to gain employment. It would provide them with emotional support. Everybody wants to belong. We've always been the Métis people. We never belonged anywhere. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is, again, that sense of belonging. So I was just Googling and looked into BCMF. There's different categories for membership with them. To be a member with those people, you need to pay for fees. Do we need our people to pay fees to belong with us? I don't believe so. The other thing is my family lineage comes from the Olette side, and part of the Olettes actually reside down in Montana. I got to meet some of my family members there this last year, and you know, in Canada, in Saskatchewan, the Métis Nation Saskatchewan, we are very rich with culture. We are so rich with our pride, and I watched a 14-year-old girl who has connections to who we are sing the Métis anthem. And what connected with me is that you guys know, I sing this Métis anthem. And to watch this young lady who lives in Montana sing, sorry, somebody's trying to share a password and I'm trying to read. She sang the part that said, "We are proud to be Métis, watch our nation rise again. Never more forgotten people, we're true Canadians." So if you can think about that with your heart and your soul, and think about those families and those individuals who were removed, who don't have the support of such a strong nation like us, just please do that.
Thank you. Laura Burnoff.
That's it. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Laura Burnoff, Northern Region 1. I remember when we were talking about Bill C-53 and I brought up a scenario with citizenship. So in my understanding, I'm in support if, because there are lots of communities, especially in the East Coast, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, those areas that don't have any Métis offices or Métis places where they can go. And this person had to renew their Métis card. She's from Saskatchewan, and she couldn't. So I think in this sense, if this were to go through, then people like her would be able to identify as Indigenous in a place where she can't get any recognition. And then this thought just came to me just a second ago. It would really help this, prevents the pretendians from false identifying as well, if they can get the proper Métis identification card. And I know it's just one part because she does have Métis, a citizenship card, but it's just, she can't get a replacement for it. So I hope that it involves this too, or it encompasses this.
Thank you. Jeremy Denemy.
I'm just speaking to the resolution and the comments that Richard had made regarding if you don't live in Saskatchewan, that there will be no services given. And so I think the resolution should reflect that, and that once the controls are put in place for you to be able to verify that they're not a member of both things, then we can bring it back and maybe give them services. So just a friendly amendment to the mover and the seconder. Thank you.
There's a proposal for a friendly amendment. Yep, we'll pull, if we can pull up that motion. All right, so if we go to page 1. We'll just work on the wording here.
Okay, so just for clarification, Jeremy, can you say what exactly it is that you want us to amend and where in the resolution that would be?
The amendment is just that no services will be provided to anyone living outside of Saskatchewan until the controls are put in place to be able to verify that they don't belong to two different Métis governments.
I think what we need to do, Jeremy, is just sort of send that to legal for us to have a look at where it would fit and what the impact might be to this resolution.
While we're doing that, would anyone be opposed to me continuing with the speakers list? Okay. Oh, okay. Deputy Clerk Matt Vermette just has something he needs to add at this point.
Got a promotion in the last 5 minutes. But yeah, so no, the only thing I wanted us to consider is on the program and service end, absolutely agree that there are certain areas where we don't have additional resources to go outside of the province. Post-secondary would be a good example where our university funding is oversubscribed, different things like that. We can always continue to pursue additional funding, but there are areas where we could potentially support people who are out of province, and I think an example of that would be our mental health crisis line. So we have a 24-hour helpline for mental health, and we do have kind of surplus time available in that. And so I would just ask the Assembly that if you were going to make a resolution, that there's a mechanism in there that allows us to provide service on, say, key things like mental health when we have surplus resources within our mental health framework. So there may be other examples as well, but for now, that's the one that comes to mind.
Thanks, Matt. Jocelyn Ormerand.
Thank you, Mrs. Speaker. And I apologize, this might be a little bit rambly because my thoughts were put together before lunch and they're definitely not put together now. But I guess one of my big questions is would there be any harm in tabling this until the November MNLA? Just because I know that there's a lot of questions right now about the logistics of this. There's agreements that need to be had with or even just conversations that need to be had with our fellow governing bodies, with the MNC. And if we were to table this right now, it would give us 5 months to have that conversation and come to maybe some preliminary agreements with them in regards to dual citizenship and being able to cross-reference those registries. So I just wonder if that's a possibility, just because it sounds like there's a lot of questions around the logistics of this. And on that, there's nothing in the resolution, and correct me if I'm wrong, that says that they have to have ties to Saskatchewan. So we say that they're coming home, but if they've never had a tie to Saskatchewan, what home are they coming to? I think that's a really important piece, that folks that are holding the M&S card should have some sort of a tie to Saskatchewan. And then another question that I have is just what would the timeline of implementation be on this? Because it basically what I'm seeing in the Citizenship Act and in the Constitution, if this passes today, it sounds like it would be fairly immediate. So I have questions about that. And then my last question, I'll wrap it up here, is that we say that this doesn't affect programming dollars, but yet in the Constitution, there's nothing saying that folks need to be in Saskatchewan to belong to a local, and they are allowed to belong to a local nearest to them. So that means that they could access programming dollars that are flowing through a local, so that is a concern for me. Thanks.
Just 1 second. I believe there was a few different questions there. So we've got sort of 3 different spaces we're conferring on. Just give us 1 moment.
Can I can I just get Jocelyn to clarify the last question that you had, please?
So in the Constitution, it says that Métis citizens have a right to join a local. And then in Article 10, under citizenship, Article 10, Section 2D, it says, in communities where no locals exist, every Métis person shall apply to the local nearest their residence. So that means that people in Alberta can apply to locals potentially in Western Region 2A. People in Manitoba could apply to Eastern Region locals, and then they could access like our UPIP programming dollars, right? Because we have a mandate to serve all of our citizens as part of those funding agreements.
Secretary McCallum.
I'm going to attempt to answer that question. My head is very far from this resolution. I'm so sorry, but in regards to the Constitution, when under Section 7, it gives us the opportunity to belong to a local within 6 months of residing within that community, and that we would have access to the programming that that community, that local delivers. However, in Article 10, give me a minute, please. Ten 2D is in communities where no local exists, Métis persons shall apply to the local nearest to their residence. That they shall is the word that I'm going to guess that you're referring to, right? And so right now we continue to have this same discussion. It's an ongoing discussion, an old discussion as well, and we have to come up with we have to come to a conclusion with it. And my hope was through the constitutional reform is people say, we know, and I don't see the report in here, mind you, from registry, 80% belong and 20% don't. So, the other way around. 20% belong and 80% don't. So are those 80% access and programming? Probably. We know that through our local, that they are access and programs. However, they're not in need to belong to a local, but it goes back to the question, how do we marry those two, and how do we ensure that we're leading into that direction to have that discussion around this table and to decide, and also when we further our consultations within the local act, how is that involved, right? And so those, I think there's two separate topics, and I also feel that, I think 2 things, okay? One is, I support the resolution. I support the concept of bringing our families home, that wherever they belong, they should come home. And I remember, I think it was 2017 or 2018.
I'm so sorry, Secretary McCallum. I have to cut you off.
Okay, then can I just finish off? We, in this assembly, we brought a young girl home. She was away due to the 60 scoop. and we welcomed her home, and we paid her way to come home. And I thought that was a statement, but I thought we were also going to continue to work to bring the families home that were under the 60 scoop and the foster care and all those other barriers that we have. This is a really important resolution, but there's details, even the ones that Jeremy spoke about, those 2 amendments, right? I think that we need to continue to, I don't think, in closing, I want to say this, I don't think each and every one of us, we agree with the resolution, but it's the content of what exists in it and what's the future of it. That's what it is.
Thank you. Jody Latondre.
Jody Latondre McDowell, Local 83. I am in full support of this resolution. However, I'd like to see the amendment now that it's been commented on, because I was going to call the question, but I won't until we see the amendment.
Yeah, they're still discussing it right there. So we're let me see where we're at on that. We'll just hang on 1 second. I will double check for you, see where we're at in terms of getting that amendment in there. They're hiding from me.
Excuse me, Madam Speaker. I had a number of questions that weren't addressed as well, such as, do they have to have a tie to Saskatchewan? Is there an option to table this, so on and so forth?
Okay. One of the things that I'm going to recommend at this point is to think through how many questions we can get through in one sitting. So we will do those 2 right now.
So I'm not sure that I would be prepared to entertain Jeremy's friendly amendment, just because of the things that we talked about with respect to accessing mental health supports and those kinds of things. However, Jocelyn, if you wanted to furnish this assembly with a friendly amendment with respect to having a tie to Saskatchewan, I personally, I'm not sure about President McCallum, who moved the motion, would entertain that.
I would be willing to make that amendment, or
All right.
suggest the friendly amendment.
Perfect. We're just going to confer about this other friendly amendment. One moment. One second.
Now that she's gone, I'm going to sneak in here. The only problem with that amendment, I think we need to be very clear, because there are some people that fit the definition of who we are that are tied to Red River communities, that are tied to the script process and all of those kinds of things. So that would be my only, I think that's something that we would seriously have to think about, because I think about my dad. I'll use him as an example. He was born in Chinatown, Manitoba, just outside of St. Lazare. He was born and raised there. He moved to Saskatchewan, married my wonderful mother. So he doesn't have that historical tie. His historical tie is to Manitoba. So that's the only thing that I would say. The other thing that I want to say around that, if I can, is around Section 31 Métis. And when I say that, for those of you who don't know what that means, that is the 1870 Manitoba Act. And in Section 31, it talks about the children of the half-breeds, the Métis children. And so what happened was, of course, Canada didn't live up to their obligations. And as a result, about, I think it's something like there was maybe only 15% of those people that tie back to Section 31 still remained in Manitoba. The rest of them dispersed. And so there's also that issue of the connectedness to Section 31. I dare say that probably 80-some% of our population are descendants of that Section 31 of the 1870 Manitoba Act. So I think at the same time, we have to be really careful and thoughtful about that.
Can I quickly respond?
All right, actually, I'm just going to hold all the responses for a moment because we have to give our technical staff some time because we've got to pull certain pieces of legislation, make sure that we're staying on track. So in terms of Jeremy's amendment, what they're looking at right now, there might be a workaround that would still make that friendly amendment possible in this amendment. In terms of adding the tie to Saskatchewan, we actually have a Citizenship Act. You would have to meet that. So they're just double checking that piece. So one of the things that I'm going to say is it's great that we're having this kind of a technical discussion because it allows us to check all the different pieces of legislation and then get back on track. So as we're trying to do those things, I am going to respect the speakers list. Jody, I have to move on from you because now we have 2 friendly amendments that we're trying to work through. So I am going to move forward on the speakers list because we have come back a couple times now. So Penny Hurton.
Good afternoon, good night. My name is Penny Hurton, President of Local 11A. You can hear me.
Penny, just speak a little closer to your mic.
I want to call question, and I'm in full agreement with Josie, I call her, but you call her Rosalind over there, with her amendment. I think it fits perfectly into your coming home, President and Vice President. And if not, we are going to be here for another 2 hours if we don't go and take a look at it and come back. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. So Penny has called question. I just need to clarify where we can move because we actually have 2 friendly amendments currently being looked at. So we're going to close the speakers list. Speaking is cut off now. Question has been called. We need a seconder for that. Tracy Rogers, I believe. Sorry, I couldn't see through the pop bottle. But before we can vote, I actually have to find out about the friendly amendments because we can't vote until we have the friendly amendments. But I'm just going to hold us here. So I know that it is inconvenient to be held, but now I have to hold us here till we can figure out this one piece. So stand by.
Madam Speaker, may I make a point of order? Over here?
Oh, yes.
I missed roll call, Carla Hope, but I also have a second voting mechanism here from
oh, thank you. I'll come
president
gather
who
that
has
right
left.
now.
Okay, folks, we're just going to have a little 5-minute walk around, stand up, stretch your legs. Yeah, like 5 minutes though. And please respect the time and respect the house. Thank you. Okay, folks, we'll get you back to your seats. Please. Never be scared to say question. Nice is she on the list? We gotta wait 7 people. Okay. We need President McCallum and Vice President Leclerc to come look at the amendments, and Jeremy. Jeremy Denemy. Jeremy, you around? Vice President and President. Okay, so I gotta go find President and Vice President. And Jeremy Denemy because they're fucking around.
Sounds good.
Well, my cousin always does this when he's like really drunk, but he'll like just lift up his lid and go, wow, you know. But I'm just like, that I'm gonna use that next time. Razzle dazzle. Razzle dazzle.
May I have a gummy? I've been eyeing them all morning. I'm like, there's a juju, please. One green.
Yeah.
Hey, vinegars.
And the grapes are fine, whole, nice and sweet.
probably should. Okay, folks, because we had that break, we're going to have to roll call back in for the rest of the afternoon. So our clerk, Richard Quintal, is going to do a quick roll call.
Northern Region 1, Laura Burnoff. Laura Burnoff.
Here.
Curtis Fiss.
Online.
Lorna LaValle.
Here.
Brett Angus.
Yo.
George Nottamagan. Alan Auger. Northern Region 2, Leonard Montgrand. Matilda Wagner. Dean Herman. Donna Janvier. Keith Shuchuk. Violet Herman.
Here.
Marlene Hansen.
Here.
Renee Desjardins.
Here.
Northern Region 3, Mervyn Tex Bouvier.
Hello.
Mike Nottamagan. Percy Kenny. Not here. Kelvin Roy.
Here.
Patsy LaLiberty.
Here.
Eugenie Lafleur. Riley Coulinar.
Here.
Joe Degno. Fred Kenny. Louis Gardner.
Here.
Eastern Region 1, Ryan Carrier. He is at a funeral today, and he's asked that everyone say some prayers for his family member that they had to lay to rest. Gerald Fable. Eastern Region 2, Brent Dignas.
Afternoon.
Helen Johnson.
Okay.
Marilyn Eckert.
Here.
Sheila Yip. Sheila Yip. Brenda Bellevaux. Also, if we could say some prayers for Diane Janai, she is not well and needs some supports, so she sends her regrets. Viola Bell. Roger Janai. Eastern Region 2A, Tim Rusin. Tim Rusin. Joanna Patiandi. Wayne Paul. Wayne Paul. Gary Peltier. Derek Langen.
Here.
Eastern Region 3, Marg Friesen.
Here.
Linda Lagasse. Liebert Poitras. Linda Sopp. Tracy Rogers. Dexter Mondor. Tricia Nikifor-Cressette. Sheila Peltier. Larry Leclerc.
Regrets.
Ed Blondo. Western Region 1, Loretta King.
Here.
Charmaine Jodin.
Regrets.
Warren Boyer.
Regrets.
Marjorie Pouliot. Deborah Ludvigsson. Margaret Lavoie. Margaret Lavoie. Kat Murray. Michelle Hazard. Michael Bell. Teresa Brady. Western Region 1A, Billy Kennedy.
Ota.
Becky Trotsky. Dieter Klarenbach.
Here.
Jordan Mihalix.
Danche.
Western Region 2, Sherry McLennan.
Hello.
Victor Guilla. Karen Rondo. Karen Rondo. Joe Martel.
Here.
Cindy Neufeld. Carla Hope. Jody Latendre. Lynn Renier. Lynn Renier. Jade Bowering. Brenda White. Brenda White. Gail Johnson. Darlene McKay. Jeanette Primo. Jennifer Gardner. Jeff Schwanette. Western Region 2A, Kathy Pruden-Ansel.
Here.
Jocelyn Ormerod. Barbara Card. Did I hear a Barbara Card? Oh, there we go. Barry Falcon. Chance Peranto.
Here.
Kim Fisher.
Here.
Shirley Eisbister.
Here.
Eli Stewart.
Here.
Penny Hurton. Okay. And I believe Jeremy Denemy, he's over here. Western Region 3, Wendy Gervais.
Here.
Dennis Brooks.
Here.
Daryl Hallman. Rebecca Anderson. Marilyn Fizakis. Eugene Hamilton. Shay Druin. Lefida Madeleine. Darlene Langen. President Langen. Oh, I hear her yelling and running. Gwen King. Nancy Dunn. Danielle DeBrun.
Here.
Bonnie Vandal.
Here.
Our Provincial Métis Youth Council, Autumn Lang-LaRose.
Here.
Lauren Hansen.
Here.
Charlie Mondor.
Here.
Zachary Curry.
Here.
Kyra Wessaquat.
Here.
Provincial Secretary Lisa McCallum.
Here.
Vice President Michelle Leclerc. And our president, Glenn McCallum. We have quorum. 93.
All right, thank you so much. I actually, while we're waiting for the friendly amendments to be finished, because question was called, but we can't vote till we can see the friendly amendments, I'm going to invite Elder Leon Neville to speak, and then I believe Elder Max Morin will also be speaking.
Good evening. I've watched the growth of the Métis for a long time. You know, we have 5 years of discussion on this, the treaties and how we're going to word them and put them in the Constitution. It's okay to ask the lawyers to put clarity in the wording. But culturally based, why aren't you utilizing your elders? That's what we're here for. You're supposed to be getting guidance from us elders. Use common sense, for heaven's sake. All of our Métis leaders are elected, so you have the authority to vote one way or the others. So please, utilize your elders. That comes first. The culture is there. They've been there. We've done it. I'm going to turn this over to Max, because he's been here a lot longer than I have. Carry on, Max.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. Yeah, I was listening this morning, and I didn't know how the process for us to get involved, especially when you were talking about the treaties. Treaties, I remember elders that were talking about our land base, our fishing rights, our hunting rights, access to the land, and build cabins, trappers' cabins, fishermen's cabins. All of these things people used to make their livelihood from. And that's why the Métis Society in the old days was formed, because everybody was taking everything away from our people. And they said, let's get together and let's form a Métis Society to lobby and fight for our rights. And now today we have an example. This morning you were talking about the treaty rights. Guess what the treaty rights are? Exactly what our elders were told to fight for. Even today, health, medication, transportation to our health clinics or to the hospital, that's treaty rights. And when you talk about land base, we're talking about a land claim. That's treaty rights. But a lot of people don't understand, because the word treaty means treaty Indian. Maybe we'll have treaty rights too, we won't pay taxes. Maybe we can go and work in the Métis communities without paying income tax, like the treaties do. Those are the kind of things that could be negotiated under the treaty that they're talking about. And we've heard our people talk about these things for years. Why table it? We need it. We need those treaty rights for our people. Right now we have a limited funds from the Métis Nation for health. They help people who come to Saskatoon, give them a room, stuff like that. They help with people who pass away. They help with the funeral expenses and stuff like that. Those could be incorporated into the treaty agreement. So and education is another thing that could be incorporated into the treaty to get X amount of dollars for the people that we represent every year. And so those are things that could be incorporated into a treaty agreement. But let's table it. Let's understand it more. I used to hear my grandfather first talk about this. And then my dad, when he came back from the Second World War, started talking about rights. And Edward King and Scola, they call him that, Joe Dia's uncle, from the ranch, Mr. DeRocher, and all these people, Jimmy Narumagan, he was from, he was a veteran too, he from Pine House, and you have all these leaders like Clem Shorche, we have Philip, and all these guys that used to fight for these rights also. Why are we not wanting to pass the agreement of treaty rights when that's what we were put in these positions for years? I said to Glenn when we first started some programs for housing, repairing the houses, a little bit of money for treaty rights. Thank God it's happening. I used to hear my dad arguing about that. I used to argue about that. We finally see something. Well, let's incorporate all those things that we want into the treaty agreement. Simple as that. You don't have to create anything funny. And the final thing is, when we talk about people coming home, let's bring them home. Don't have to debate it forever. We have one guy that lived originally from Mother Cross, I think Texas, talking about him, and he lives in Ottawa now, and he worked over there most of his life, and his wife is a nurse, and he wants to be a member of the Métis Society of Saskatchewan and Métis Nation of Saskatchewan government. Why not? He was from Either Cross. A lot of us can vouch for the guy. We know him. He still communicates with us. And when we have residential school gatherings, like we were trying to have one this summer, he's going to be there. He comes home. So a lot of people are like that. They live somewhere else, but they want to come home. And let's bring him home, and that should be done with. We don't have to debate all these things all day long, and it's just as simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we're going to read the resolution. So just a reminder, a couple of people have mentioned that we used to finish the speakers list. We did until we passed the rules of the House. The rules of the House say that once question's been called, we call question. So question was called, and I'm just going to go back to who called question. I believe it was Jody. Penny, sorry, it was Penny. Penny called question. So I need just a bit of clarification, but I do believe at this point we have to call question, then we read the new, or do I read the new motion, approved motion by the two?
Yeah, so I think we're all waiting for the friendly amendments.
Great, so let's put those
yeah.
up. Sorry, Michelle.
No, I was just going to say I met with Jeremy and Jocelyn with respect to that, and I think we've come to some agreement, and then we'll vote on it.
Perfect, thank you. My apologies for cutting you off, Vice President. All right, so resolution number 05202406, coming home out of province citizenship, allowing out of province Métis to receive Métis Nation Saskatchewan citizenship, moved by Glenn McCallum, seconded by President, seconded by Michelle Leclerc, Vice President. Whereas the Constitution of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan Constitution includes a definition of citizenship that does not include a Saskatchewan residency requirement. Whereas the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly amended the Citizenship Act in 2021 to provide for a process of registering eligible persons as Métis citizens based on the definition of Métis contained in the Constitution. Whereas the Constitution requires a connection to the Métis homeland, and Saskatchewan is the heart of the homeland, and the Métis Nation Saskatchewan, MNS, will continue to give life to this connection through holding to the national definition. Whereas at community consultations in 2019, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, citizens supported removing any provincial residency requirements for MNS citizenship. Whereas MNS recognizes through community consultations the importance of holding citizenship to out-of-province individuals. Whereas the MNLA recognizes that Métis individuals who are eligible for MNS citizenship but reside outside of Saskatchewan are not currently eligible for programs and services provided by MNS. Whereas MNS reaffirms its commitment to the preservation and celebration of Métis culture, heritage, and rights while fostering greater solidarity and cooperation among Métis people residing both within and outside of Saskatchewan, ensuring that all Métis people can stay connected to the heartland wherever they reside. Therefore, be it resolved that the Métis Nation Legislative Assembly, MNLA, directs the clerk of the MNLA to ensure the Constitution of the Métis Nation Saskatchewan, Constitution, and the Citizenship Act are complied with so that all applications for citizenship from Métis who meet the definition of citizenship in the Constitution are approved and can remain connected to the heartland wherever they reside, and be it further resolved that the MNLA directs the Chief Executive Officer and the Registrar of Métis Nation Saskatchewan to develop guidelines for the implementation of this resolution. President Glenn McCallum, do you still so move? Yes. Vice President Michelle McClare, do you still so second?
Yeah, I'll just maybe just agree to, I guess I should publicly agree to the friendly amendments.
Wonderful. All right, so now that we have reached this point, and our mover and seconder and those who had questions have agreed to those, question had been called by Penny. Do we have a seconder for question? Okay. I believe Tracy Rogers had her hand up first. It was a bit of a race. So now we need to vote on question. So everybody get your clickers. All in favor? Those opposed? You have 53 seconds and counting. All right, question is called, 77 in favor, so that motion passes. All right, the question passes rather. Now we have to vote on the amended motion. So question has been called, speaker's list is done. We are now heading to vote for the motion. So again, that's the coming home out of province citizenship. The mover and seconder have already confirmed that they are going ahead. They like these and that they have accepted them. So now we will vote on this motion. All right, and that resolution passes 73 to 15.
I just want to say a few words in regards to the good discussion around our people coming back home to Saskatchewan. It really gives help to your government in regards to the clarity, in regards to who belongs to our province, and how the door is open for them to come home. And the other thing I would like to say, the elders that would speak more frequently in regards to the discussions that are going on. And reason being that they are our history. They know they've been a part of this Métis Nation for many years. We have to respect that and understand that. To the folks listening out there who are Métis, are from Saskatchewan, welcome home.